Let me just ask you this, Mr. Risk Taker. What's the bigger risk? Carrying on like you're going, or taking the deeper dive? What's better? Take eight big risks in life, sin once, miss the mark once, but get 7, achieve 7 out of 8, or take 100 risks and achieve 8 of them. My hunch is that if there's a God, he's saying, go for the 100 and get 8 rather than 8 and get 7. If you're not taking enough risk to sin or miss the mark, to fail, then what are you doing, man? Don't come back with even money. Come back with the safe bets.
You cannot afford not to.
I get the sense that feelings are one of these strange bets, emotions, investing ourselves, not holding a bit back, not putting one foot out, like putting it on the line, opening up.
Yeah.
That feels like a retreat in kind, but one that's plausibly deniable. When we just have one foot out, I didn't fully commit myself to this project, this relationship, this friendship, this self-transformation. And it means that if failure comes along, it doesn't hurt as much.
Yep.
But it also means that success is less likely. And if success comes along, you know that you didn't really earn it.
We have to define success for ourselves. And then we have to put in the work to maintain it. Take that daily tally. Tend our garden. Keep the things that are important to us in good shape.
No. Don't study the result. What was the person doing when they got there? And everybody who's achieved something great was some sort of outlaw. Some sort of hustler. Out of balance, out of whack, dark times. Whoa.
Airstream.
Still wakes up in the middle of the night and glad they're wearing a mouth guard because they had chipped all their teeth with that fucking nightmare they were having about those things they did back then. I'm one of those.
Prioritize who you are, who you want to be, and don't spend time with anything that antagonizes your character.
The work to say, we're not gonna just let that slide anymore. No, make a sacrifice today. Sacrifice it.
Be brave, take the hill, but first answer that question, what's my hill? Whatever your answer is, don't choose anything that will jeopardize your soul.
You've got this great line where you say so many people are obsessed with how to live longer instead of how to live better.
I'm for it. The longevity. I'm for it. But in the pursuit of it, are we measuring quality of life along the way? Some people aren't. And I personally don't want to have the highest number, but then go, well, that wasn't any fun, or I didn't enjoy that, or that sucked. Profit measures quality with the quantity. So I'm saying real success is when you have profit. Well, really great longevity would be for those quality years, quality time left in this life. I also say that because while I'm not looking forward to it, I'm not really afraid of death or dying. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm shaking my boots if I'm face to face with that great white. You know what I mean? I'm not looking forward to it, but I see it as obviously it's inevitable. And obviously I personally see it as hopefully a comma, you know. Tomorrow is. These people don't have to the suffering consideration. It's a privilege, man. I'm trying to put food on the table right now. I'm paying my rent tonight. You want to talk to me about investing in my future? And I say, and that's part of what faith and religion are for. To help those in misery hang on to a hope that will most likely not be served them in this life. To sell them belief and faith that they will be served in the next. And what if there is nothing there, man? What if there's nothing to hope for? What if there's no next? I don't know. But either way, in misery here or without a heaven there, not having any hope or faith in anything is a certain way to remain where you are forever. But if you can find something that you can keep going, something that no matter how small to look forward to and continually have faith in and chase, well, then your life here is going to be better now. Heaven or not. Let's go to the dream. Let's flip that script. I always have gone from nonfiction to say, let's make that the dream. Just keep living. Art emulates life. Let's go to dreams. Let's go to poems, prayers. These are pursuits of an ideal beauty. These are in between the lines. This is in between the math. This is not academic. This is not intellectual. These are ideals that we pursue, the beginner's mind that we have as a child before we know worse. And I don't want to be ignorant. I don't want to be foolishly optimistic. Let's look to those and believe that we can still make them. I grew up only knowing sort of the courage of the persistence. Be resilient, endure, get up, dust yourself off, go. The problem with that, the Achilles heel with that is if you get up and you have the courage to keep on going every time and get up and dust yourself off, you make the same mistakes each time around because you never backed off. To have what I've now learned and still learning is the courage to go, no, I'm going to let some people pass me in the race right now because I'm going to look at why I keep stepping in that damn same pothole and twisting my ankle, the same spot. Why I keep failing when I try to get that next spot in this relationship.
There is a unique sort of circle of hell that is reserved for when you've had to pay the penance, say that you're sorry, and then arrive straight back at the same place.
I think it can become a living hell. Like I kept that poem in there, Daymares. I do too. You know, nightmares suck, but at least you wake up. Mm-hmm. And they're over. It's the ones that stick with you when you wake up and go through your day that are right there. Those are the ones. That's the living hell. Yeah. I think that's what you're talking about. And you repeat offend enough, word gets out. The circles gets out. People doubt you on your approach. You're like, yeah, but don't do this. I mean, all of a sudden, you're going places and you got to look over your shoulder. You got to see who's there that I didn't pay back. Who do I owe? What bridge did I burn? What person did I betray to get where I am? That's a life. That's a living hell.
In the modern world, you can move from city to city. At least you can, in some regard, leave your reputation behind. However, if you lose your reputation with yourself, if you no longer trust you, I don't keep my own word. I know that I'm not a trustworthy person. I keep making promises.
The rom-com time, that was definitely me doing the work I was doing and only being able to do the work I was doing and offer the roles I was getting the rom-com was eating at me. Because I felt like life is good, man. I make good money. I feel like I can roll out of bed and do one of these tomorrow morning. Well, that's cool. I'm the go-to guy for this. I was countered by, I had met Camilla, fallen in love. She's now pregnant with her first child. My life was extremely vital and I was alive. Cried harder, laughed louder, felt more joy, all those things, but more. Be as challenging or as vital as my life. And I remember looking in the mirror going, well, be glad right now. Appreciate that it's not the other way around. But can I have my work challenge my lifestyle in this vitality? Yeah, if I do some dramas I want to do, well, those aren't coming. All right, if I can't do what I want to do, let me quit doing what I was doing. Now that was, it was definitely courageous. I did think I'd written people close to me. Basically, almost everybody decided my life was like,
You got it made.
Why are you throwing a jackknife in this stuff where you're tripping yourself running downhill, man? You did it. I had my wife and myself to remind myself that I'm fully up. Wildlife guide. I seriously look at those things. But over time, and it was about 20 months, it was gone long enough, had found anonymity enough, was not in your living room in a theater in a rom-com, you didn't see me on a beach shirtless. Where is he? turning down the $14.5 million offer made people go, oh shit, what's he up to? You don't just step out of Hollywood and enter unless you turn that down because you got a plan. You got somewhere you want to go. And I think that made me more attractive as a new novel idea. But that was, that really good. I think compared to
for a lot of people, their work feels more vital than their life.
Yeah.
Is that a shiny object mirage that they need to rid themselves of?
If you can and you're willing to, yeah. Look, that's part of why I started writing. The script flipped on me 5 years ago. I was like, I was feeling like my work was more vital. I felt like I was going through the motions more in my life, but I was really getting major life experiences through my work. And so that was a challenge to myself, which led to the writing, which was a more direct experience. Can I put a word down without, it's my script and without my performance on it, without music, without pictures. So that was an inward journey that I'm still on. Yes. Confidence, identity, testing it out, and it can work. Whatever that maybe it won't work. Pulling things off. And I have an innate ability for something that I believe I have the innate ability. And I learned the reason behind that instinct and how to. If it's all sales or that transaction or whatever it is, and bam, it hits and it lands like I wanted it to. Gosh, damn it, was that deja vu? It happened. That's how I saw it. That, I get confidence from that. I don't think it's what the mystics meant when they were like, be disattached. I think they mean go embrace, but for highs and lows and pains and pleasures, understand that those outward things are not the things to be attached to for your own identity. It's got to be inward first. Enjoy those, partake, but don't become attached to those for your measure.
Without complacency, trust that time is on your side.
Yep.
What do you mean there?
Yeah, man. Don't get ahead or behind it. And I can get in a rush. Look, and I know. But that is usually because an unforeseen circumstance has happened, that there's a crisis we got to deal with, or we've procrastinated and I put myself in that position where we got cramped. And it's on your side. It's a little what I mean about the living longer and living more quality. Time's on our side. And we're forced to think and feel, especially today with how fast things move. We're ahead of time a lot. But time's still moving at the same speed. And they're not given more than 24 hours a day, even though like a lot of people are looking for more. There's not any more unless you just want to change your work day. And some people do. Me, I need my 9.5 hours sleep. If I want to say I'm getting 4 hours sleep and get 5.5 hours more of a work day to be more productive, I would, but I'm not making that trade-off. It's on our side. And when we're feeling like we're dancing with time, I know I'm usually getting more done at the same pace. It's the John Wooden, a great basketball coach for UCLA. Be quick. Basketball players, like, be quick, but don't be in a hurry. You will miss things. You know, it's the Lego set, man. And you sit there and you get in a rush. You don't read the directions. You get to the end and you've got 12 pieces left. And you're like, shit. Because you got in a hurry. You got ahead of time. Instead of just that feeling of, I've checked out what I need to do and it's all adding up and this thing's built right and the foundation right and boom, there's the last piece it fits. Voila. It was with time. Time's on our side. It's not an enemy. The end. Death is not the enemy. I do believe that part of, not in a rush to get there and we want to stave it off sometimes and that it can be a screaming fight. And partially denial can help us get there. I understand that, but still, it's on our side. It's going to happen. And since it's going to happen, and that's non-negotiable, might as well go, well, I'm not going to rush to try and make more of it than there is. I want to try and spend the time I got as well as I can to produce, succeed, achieve, well, whatever those things are, but also at a pace that I'm me, that I like to dance to. I like the give and the take. I like the reverb. I like the cause and effect of how things are happening at this pace. How are we orienting ourselves now since time is speeding up so much faster with AI? I want to ask you this with AI. And I mean this is an objective question. With AI, with all these podcasts, with all these wealth of information that people can get at all times, and no one's listening to music anymore. They're listening to everybody talk about this, reading up on this. They're finding out the answers in 10 seconds that would have taken them 10 days to get before. Do people sound smarter to you?
No.
Me neither. They don't sound dumber. I do think, so we're talking about if everything's significant, nothing's significant at all. I do think that I talk to people that feel like they're hyperly punching their information absolutely great. just flushing out, but I'm going, oh, dude, what was the theme there? Did you have a bass guitar in your band? You need a bass guitar or at least somebody on percussion, hold it down. Because I didn't hear the theme. I didn't hear the thread. It was digits. Where was the soul in that story? Which goes back to the quality with the quantity. The quantity of information, but can we have the soul in it? It's where, I get the rhyme. There's rhyme to that. Those digits. There's rhyme to those facts. Oh, I see how they add up. Oh, but what if you put them in this order? They add up to another thing. Or actually, they may add up to the same damn thing. Interesting. Now I've got a rhyme. Now there's a song. That happens when time's on your side and you're looking at it without complacency. Like, start now. That doesn't mean time's on my side. Yeah, dude. Inshallah. When it happens, it'll happen. No, I'm like, wake up. Clock's ticking. It's on your side. Now just move with it. Dance with it.